It's the most successfully funded Kickstarter campaign for a mechanical keyboard in Kickstarter history. I've been testing the BladeMaster Pro for a couple of months now, and I gotta say, this might just be the best wireless mechanical keyboard out there. But it's not perfect. But I mean, what is these days though? This guy. Build quality and design is really high up there for me. It's got a lot going on, but at the same time, it's minimalistic. Like, yeah, it's got a lot of lights, but you can turn them off if you want. It's got a good weight to it, not nearly as heavy as my GK64 wired keyboard. That thing's a fucking brick, but at 970 grams, yeah, not bad. Certainly doesn't feel cheap. The top deck, I'm pretty sure, is aluminum or some other lightweight metal. On the TE model, which is the wired version of this board, the deck's all black, but here on the Pro, they call it space gray. To me, it looks more like gunmetal, but whatever. Personally, I probably could have done without the cut angles on the corners. I would have preferred more rounded 90-degree corners, or even sharp corners for that matter, but I'm just nitpicking here. Regardless, I think it looks awesome. There is a bit of branding on and just below the space bar. I think it would have looked a lot cleaner without it, but Drevo does love to brand their boards, so whatever, it's not the end of the world. The keycaps are laser etched ABS plastic, so not quite as luxurious as double shot PBT, but they feel just fine. And since the BladeMaster supports both PC and Mac, the Windows and Alt keycaps have Option and Command etched in for convenience. It's using Cherry MX key switches, and you can get them in black, blue, brown, silent red, or speed silver flavors. I've always been a fan of brown switches, and I've mainly used Gatron browns, so I think this is actually my first time using Cherry MX browns, and yeah, I love the typing experience with them. It's been great. The RGB gets nice and bright, and it's got some nice diffusion too, but I'm still able to see the individual diodes, so I think there's still some room for improvement on maybe the next generation BladeMaster Pro, but either way, it still looks really good, and obviously, the keyboard is Perky RGB backlit. Obviously. There's 15 steps of brightness for you to go through, and everything's controlled through the Drevo Power Console app, which has a bunch of different lighting modes to choose from, or you can make your own custom lighting layout like I have, which is deceptively easy to do. Now on the bottom of the board, there's 4 dip switches for you to switch layouts, swap the caps lock for left control, power on or off for when the USB-C charging cable isn't plugged in, and Mac mode, which gives actual full native Mac keyboard controls over things like volume, screen brightness, mission control, and MIDI controls, which is both uncommon for wireless mechanical keyboards, but also really useful, especially for me, since I use both platforms. And then on the other side of the dip switches, there's a legend for all the function control keys, so if you do swap up the keycaps and forget which keys do what, you can just take a quick peekaboo at the bottom. Now, in order to interact with those function control keys, we use the Genius knob, which, by the way, for anyone that cares, like the deck, is also metal. So if we want to control the keyboard brightness, you hit the function and insert keys and then spin the knob forward or backward, same with the animation speed, volume control, and so on. But you can also single and double press the knob, which has different default functions depending on which platform you're using it with. There's 2 indicator lights on both sides of the Genius knob. One's the wireless mode indicator and the other's the power indicator. When it's charging, it pulses yellow. When it's fast charging, it turns green. And when it's got less than 20% battery left, it turns red. Now there's 3 methods for connectivity here. There's wired via USB-C, there's Bluetooth 4.0, and then there's the wireless 2.4 GHz USB adapter, which is what I prefer to use because it unlocks the 1 millisecond polling rate. But it does drain the battery faster, which is why when I'm not gaming, I quickly switch over to the 8 milliseconds. Luckily, you can switch on the fly using the function key and actually picking between 1, 2, 4, and 8 milliseconds. Pretty slick, man. And speaking of switching shit on the fly, we've got 3 onboard profile memory slots you can switch between in the function row. Now, jumping into the Drevo app, which is pretty well laid out and nicely polished, but it's not quite as intuitive as I'd like for something that can get pretty complex depending on how deep you want to get with it, but holy hippo shit does it let you customize the absolute balls out of this board. You can customize any bloody key you want to do any damn thing you want, and you can customize what you want the Genius knob to do too, which is damn near limitless. In fact, beyond volume and MIDI control, I still can't make up my mind on what it is I want it to do. So if you have any suggestions on what I should map the knob to do, please, for the love of God, sound off in the comments. But what's even cooler is that the Genius knob has 3 layers you can save, and in each layer, you've got 4 actions. So really, you have 12 actions total with just 1 profile. But then if we get into the profile manager, you'll see the 3 onboard memory slots, and each memory slot, as far as I can tell, lets you set up an unlimited amount of profiles. So you can just drag and drop and swap out as many profiles as you want over the 3 memory slots, which is insane. And then in the gaming tab, we've got a gaming mode that'll disable some keys to avoid accidentally fucking up your kill streak, but aside from that, you can set the timeouts and polling rates. And you know what? I haven't had any connection issues with either the Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz wireless, which is a really nice change from my other wireless keyboards, and from sleep to wake only takes like a second. It's just been 100% reliable for me so far. So there's a lot of pros I've already mentioned, and because of them, this keyboard's still on my desk, and I'll probably live there until something better comes along, but it's not perfect, so I really wanted to make sure you guys were aware of some of the cons. Like battery life. It's got a pretty hefty sized 4000 milliamp hour battery, but when the lights are at max brightness and the polling rate's at 1 millisecond, it lasts me about, I don't know, maybe a few hours of gaming at most, and if I'm just browsing the web or researching something I'm reviewing, it'll last me maybe 15 to 17 hours, but that type of usage is over the span of a day and a half or so. So, because of that, I have mine set at 50% brightness or just under. I keep the polling rate at 8 milliseconds when I'm not gaming, and when I am gaming, I usually change it to 1 millisecond, and that seems to give me a good balance of regular usage and several hours of gaming over the course of about 2 or 3 days, which isn't great, but it's tolerable. The Genius knob, while very cool, isn't playing nice with the Drevo app at the moment. Like I can assign most functions just fine, but there's a bunch that just straight up don't work. And the only way you can assign and save your own custom functions is by setting the connection mode to wired. Like you can customize literally anything else you want while in wireless mode, as long as you have the USB-C cable plugged in. But if you want to change anything at all on the Genius knob, you've got to set it to wired mode and then make your changes in order for them to take effect. Then you can switch back to wireless mode. Yeah, it's a small but really frustrating annoyance. Another small frustrating annoyance with the knob is that it desperately needs to be textured, because after an hour of gaming, my fingies get a little damp, and when that happens, trying to spin a super smooth round knob isn't exactly what I'd call a time saver. And I think the pin that holds the knob is pretty loosey-goosey too, because it wobbles and takes a little away from the build quality of the rest of the board. Here's the thing though. I've spoken at great length through several emails back and forth with my contact at Drevo, and almost every single one of my complaints is either already in the process of being addressed or will be. Look, I really like this keyboard. It ticks all the boxes I personally require for a wireless mechanical keyboard. You know, it's got great productivity potential, it's rad for gaming, the build quality is great, you get Cherry MX switches, it's packed full of features, you can customize it till your pubes turn gray, it's got every connection method you could want, has super fast 1 millisecond polling rate, it's natively compatible with both Windows and Mac, and let's be honest, it just looks fucking cool. I mean, aside from some software issues that'll be fixed with a few updates, I'm tempted to call this the best wireless mechanical keyboard on the market, and for 150 bucks, at a price competitive enough to put the mainstream brands to shame. Anyways, if you're interested in picking one up, I'll have discount codes you can use on Amazon along with a bunch of links, and if it's out of stock, I was told to expect more stock at the end of May. But you know what? I think that's it for this one. If you liked the video, show me some love with that thumbs up button, and if you're new to my stuff, don't forget to subscribe for new videos every Saturday. But thanks, as always, for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Cheers.